Welcome to Construction Genius, and today we're digging into one of the most misunderstood and most critical growth constraints in construction, bonding. My guest, Gary Eastman, president of Swift Bonds and Access Surety, and he's spent nearly 2 decades on the surety side of the table deciding which contractors get approved and which ones don't. We unpack what sureties really look for, why character matters more than most owners realize, and how bond claims actually play out behind the scenes, and what smart contractors do to increase bonding capacity while reducing risk. If you want to grow profitably without getting ahead of your skis, this is a conversation you need to hear. This is Eric Anderton, and you're listening to Construction Genius, a leadership masterclass. Thomas Edison said that genius is 1% inspiration and 99% perspiration. If you're a construction leader, you know all about the perspiration, and this show is all about the 1% inspiration that you can add to your hard work to help you to improve your leadership. Gary, welcome to Construction Genius.
Hey, thank you so much for having me today, Eric.
Yeah, my pleasure. Please introduce yourself to the audience.
Yeah, my name is Gary Eastman. I'm a president of Swift Bonds and Access Surety, which are companies in the surety bond space, providing surety bonds like performance bond, bid bonds, license and permit bonds, typically to construction companies.
Excellent. What are the top 3 things sureties look at when deciding whether to bond a contractor? And which of these do construction company owners often underestimate? Yeah,
the big 3 are the kind of they're called the 3 C's, which are character, capacity, and capital. And character is, hey, have you done jobs before? Do you make sure that you do them on time? Kind of your word is your bond, right? The second one is capacity, which is, hey, do you have the infrastructure that can handle a job of a specific size? And capital is, do you have the financial backing, through your financial statements or, personal financials, to make sure that you can handle the jobs that you are given in case, for example, somebody doesn't pay for 60 days. So those are the big 3. I think the one that, everybody focuses on are really capacity and capital. I think character is many times undervalued here. And this is the one where I think it's, hey, have you ever defaulted on things before? Have you ever had any issues? That's highly considered in the underwriting space, because that's what people want to do, want to work for. There are going to be problems. And if you are the type of person that fixes those problems, that goes a long, long, long way for people.
Okay, so let's assume that someone has the capacity and the capital, but then you're considering whether to engage with a contractor, and you're sitting in the room. Perhaps a sales rep has come to you with a good opportunity, and you guys are debating. You're on sort of the knife edge in terms of the character aspect. What are the typical topics that you're debating that are kind of causing you to think about whether go or no go on issuing the bond?
If we are talking with a contractor that's, where they're on the knife edge, what we really have focused in on are a couple of things. 1, are they trying to spend beyond their means? 2, have they ever done anything before? Do they say something that is out of character with, making sure the work gets done? And you wouldn't think that people would do that. They would hide it well. They tend not to. They tend to actually tell you kind of, hey, here's a red flag, and that's what I'm going to do. For example, they'll say like, yeah, I'm going to, once I get this job, I can use that money for job over here. And I'm like, whoa, you should never say that. But we do hear it, not frequently, but we've certainly heard it more than a few times.
That's interesting. So would you say that's a major red flag? And if you hear that, you're just not going to move forward?
Yep, we're out. That would be one where we just bow out and say, hey, we've had a couple of clients that we've learned that I would rather be out than having to deal with that. The headache's not going to be worth it, no matter how big you think it's going to be. Don't let dollar signs get in the way of dealing with somebody's character. Yeah, if they can't pass the character test, can't move forward.
How long have you guys been in business?
Since 2008.
Okay. That's an interesting time to start a business.
Yeah, it was.
Now, tell us about that then. As you're going through 2008 and, character, capacity, and capital, man, those perhaps they were in short supply at that time, eh?
Yeah, and what's weird is, I'm an attorney by trade, and so I got to see all the badness that came out at that point. And maybe that's what helped quite a bit in growing our book of business here on the surety bond side. once I started seeing all the negative things that came along. I think we take a better view of capital, right? Because I have seen people struggle, and we have lots of clients that run very thin. They may not have massive capital behind them, but that's okay. Character to me is a yes, no. If you can't meet the yes, then you're a no, right?
Yeah.
Capacity though is on that scale of, okay, we ask people, do you have your own crews? How are you dealing with this? If they're just like, oh, we'll hire somebody, well, that's a red flag. Other people are like, okay, no, here's the group I used, even if it's another sub. Oh, this is who we use, and here's why we use them, and all that. That's a lot better. It's those people that have thought through issues and understand, hey, when problems occur, here's how we solve them, versus like, there won't be any problem. Those are two separate people. And we like the ones that have actually said, hey, if something bad does happen, we're not planning for it, but if it does, here's what we can do.
Okay. Now, as far as the character issue is concerned, let's say I've had struggles in the past where maybe I have defaulted on something, but I've cleaned up my act, and I have a story to tell around that. Is it important to be upfront when you're engaging with a bonding company, just to let them know what's going on without them having to find it out themselves?
Yes, and we ask that right up front. Just to be clear, we have lots of clients that have struggled in the past.
Yeah, that
is totally okay. If you say, hey, here's the problem that we used to have, and here's what we've done to fix this so it doesn't happen again, you can typically move forward. It's the people who are like, yeah, there's a problem, it's not my fault. Okay, that's not a good answer, right? Those are the ones where we're starting to dip the other way. But we have lots and lots of clients that have struggled. And with COVID, and a few years ago, you have a lot of people that had issues. We don't mind issues. Issues happen. It's how do you respond to those issues that make all the difference.
Think about the last time you promoted someone into a leadership role and it failed. Why did it fail? I can tell you one reason. People know how to build projects, but they don't know how to build and lead teams of people. Construction comes with its challenges that only insiders truly understand. Generic leadership training doesn't cut it. You need a program to train your leaders built specifically for construction professionals, led by an industry expert. And my online course, The Shift, is exactly that course. It has 5 modules. It'll teach your people how to control their calendars and reduce stress and embrace chaos and accomplish their critical tasks. It will teach them the 3 essential messages they have to communicate every day in order to motivate and lead their team effectively. It'll show them how to build and lead a high-performing team, give them a framework for running effective meetings so they'll be able to solve problems in less than an hour, and also give them a higher perspective on their leadership that will enable them to work on the business and on their teams and not get stuck in the weeds micromanaging. So go out to my website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, read all about the course, and then enroll yourself and your leaders in the course, and I guarantee that it will transform your leadership. If it does not, you take the whole course and you didn't get benefit from it, you just send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, and I will cheerfully refund you 100% of your money. I'm really confident this course will transform your leadership. So again, go out to the website, theshift.constructiongenius.com, learn more about the course, and start taking it today. Yeah, so it's interesting as well because, a lot of construction companies, they want to grow, and then the capacity issue comes up because they've never done this type of project before. If that's the case and they're looking for, a bonding, they're looking to gain a bonding capacity they've never had before when it comes to the capacity issue, what are the top 3 things they can do to prepare for the conversation? I know you've mentioned one, where we're going to get the labor force from. You mentioned one. What are another 1 or 2 things that they can prepare for in that bonding conversation so that capacity discussion is something that brings a level of comfort to all parties involved?
Yeah, so many markets only like to go double your previous large job. Mm-hmm. So if you're trying to go past that, we need to have a good plan. And as I tell people, a plan is a great way to come up with a framework. We know that the plan never gets stuck to 100%. It's always going to change. That's okay. It's that planning process that makes all the difference. In this particular question, right? How can they look at this? you have to say, hey, this is so much bigger than what we've ever done. Not only do we have, people and labor and, materials, set up, but also, do we have anybody that's ever dealt with a job of this size, right? It may not have been for the specific company. It could have been in a previous job or relationship. We want to, say, hey, here's who's managing it and why they've done this before and how we can handle that. Then the capacity issue kind of gets reduced, and then it all becomes kind of more of a capital issue.
Yeah, it's interesting. It's interesting because a lot of owners, they tend to try and grow faster than their bond.
Mm-hmm.
And that can create issues. What do you think separates a average bonding company from one that is truly excellent from the perspective of a construction company owner?
Yeah, so I think for the construction company owner, the goal for us to separate out is not just to provide a piece of paper, but to provide, good advice and counsel on, here's how not only can you get the bond, here's how you can increase your capacity, or bonding capacity, I should say, not just job capacity, but also, here's how you can bid things. So we get a lot of data because we see all these from, all across the spectrum. So we can say, hey, in your area, here are the issues that we see coming up. For example, Florida has issues sometimes with materials like for roofing. So we tell people. And then, of course, how do you do bidding? We always tell people get a lot of data. You can make a lot of Freedom of Information Act requests on these things. So you can get an idea of what other people are bidding. Don't just rely on these third-party bidding, softwares. Really kind of dig in, because then you can start figuring out who's bidding and what their typical margins are, as well as there are seasonal issues. For example, we have a lot of clients that don't bid until the second half of the year because they know that everybody's full, so their margins can go up a little bit, 10%, 20%, which can be significant.
Yeah. What are the trickiest questions that contractors ask you that cause you to pause for a moment and really have to sort of dig into your experience?
Yeah. So the things that kind of they ask us that, or things that we see that are kind of difficult are, one, if they're traveling, have they done that before? Do they have it all built in? Two, and I think the one that comes up the most is really jobs that are related but not the same, right? Because you may think you're just adding something that's similar, but it could be you're going from heavy construction to finish work. Well, it's not the same, even if it's kind of the same project. So we just kind of dig in and say, hey, how can you do this and why? And it could be that they've hired a new, bought a little group that comes in that can do that. That's typically what we see. But there are some people who are like, oh, we'll just bolt this on. Well, when it's not the same, you have to understand how that differs and how that affects timeframes.
Besides looking at someone's, if they're bringing you their financial statements and their history in terms of the projects they've built, besides having the conversations with the contractors, who do you always reach out to and have conversations with before deciding on whether to issue a bond?
Well, that's a super interesting question. I wouldn't say we always reach out to somebody. Mm-hmm. Sometimes it's, hey, we can go forward on what we have. I think what you're asking, hey, on these tougher to place ones, the bigger ones, the weird jobs, who do we reach out to? And though sometimes, we don't just want to talk to the owner, we want to talk to the project manager.
Oh, wow.
Say, hey, what are you doing here? Right. And they will tell you right away, here are the 4 issues that we're dealing with. Mm. When they tell me the 4 issues and those are the same 4 that we see with other clients, we're like, hey, you've at least thought through this. You have this. But if they tell me, hey, there are these 2 issues, and we're like, there are 2 more. You have to have those answered. And they're like, I've never thought of that. Mm. Then we start digging in a little bit more and saying, hey, can you handle those 2 things? Sometimes they can. Sometimes, there's more due diligence needed.
That's interesting. So I never thought of that you would go and speak to the project manager, but there's a lot of wisdom there. And so a construction company owner needs to be wise about which project manager they're assigning to the project prior to engaging with the bonding company.
Absolutely, because the bonded project is the one you're going to want to get done first.
Right.
Right. So it's typically going to be your best project manager. And so because, liquidated damages come in bonded jobs. And so that's why we tend to, when we feel like we need to, we get that little bit of extra, let's talk to them and see if they know what's going on.
And then okay, so let's say you talk to a PM and you're unimpressed. Is that an immediate no-go, or is that, okay, now we need to go back to the owner and chat with him a little bit more?
Yeah, at that point, I'm going to go back and I'm going to do a little bit more chatting. And I
Yeah.
really want to look at the capital structure, because if the project manager does not have a great grasp, then I want to make sure that they have tons of capital for that inevitable delay that's coming along.
Interesting. Money solves problems, eh?
Well, yeah, I mean, it can.
Yeah, it can. Not always, but it can. What happens after a bond claim is filed that contractors don't fully understand until it's too late?
When bond claims come around, a couple of things. One, there's always a third party, usually an attorney, that's getting involved to dig in, right? And so many times they think that what their response of, oh, this is just an invalid bond claim, is enough. Not the case. So now we've gone from a bonds are typically document intensive anyway to a, hey, this is going to be really document intensive, document everything. And most contractors don't think like that. They think about doing. And in this case, it's more, hey, how can I get this documented properly to make sure that, one, it's a proper claim, two, the claim's been investigated, and three, the thing that we impress right away, how do we mitigate this, right? So we've had multiple claims that we get up front with our clients. And instead of being this multiple $100,000 claim, we get it down to such a level, $10,000, $15,000, that the obligee or whoever it is, they say, look, it's just so small, we're just not going to pursue it anymore. Well, that's great, right? They're willing to just move forward and get the stuff done. Our client isn't going to have a claim on their stuff. The surety's not upset. So by getting in front of the problem and not being behind the problem, that makes all the difference.
All right, quick break to talk about my book, Construction Genius. This is what I want you to do. Go to Amazon, search for the book, read all of the 5-star reviews, because there's a ton of them. Over 50 to be precise. And the reason I want you to read them is because real people wrote those reviews who've actually read the book. And it'll give you an idea of why you should go and buy a copy right now on Amazon. And here's the deal. If you purchase 10 or more copies for your company, and then send me an email, eric@constructiongenius.com, I'll come in via Zoom and do a 1-hour Q&A and a bonus training session with your team at no charge. I normally charge $4,500 for an hour of my time. And again, for you, I'll do it at no charge if you buy 10 or more copies of my book. And the reason you should buy it is all in the title. It's effective, hands-on, practical, simple, no BS, leadership, strategy, sales, and marketing advice for construction companies. So if you're in the construction industry, this book is for you. So you can get it on Amazon. You can also get it on Audible in the audio version as well, narrated by yours truly. And I know you'll really enjoy it. So go out and get the book. And now back to the interview.
Okay, please describe that in a little more detail. You have a claim at X dollar that's coming in, and then you work with it and you get it down to a lower amount. Please explain that a little bit more.
Yeah. So say, for example, you're building a school.
Yeah.
Right. And you've done the inside of the school, but on the outside, there's some drainage problem that's going on. Right. And so what you do, the school says, oh, I'm upset, I'm mad, so I'm making a claim against the surety. We reach out to the contractor, and the contractor's like, well, here are the 4 reasons why. And I'm like, I don't need to know the 4 reasons. We need to be documenting the 4 reasons, and they're communicating the 4 reasons, and then talking to the school about how we get this resolved. Because typically that's what they want. And so in this particular case, it could be, here's how we're going to change the drainage, and the timing of that we're communicating. Well, instead of this being $100,000, we've got to, go hire somebody and go crazy. It's like, it's really a $15,000 change because the road is different than we had anticipated. So we're draining it off a slightly different way.
So that would lead me to think that your selection of someone of a bonding agent is really important, because perhaps not all bonding agents would have that conversation with you.
Yeah. So we have competitors that don't do that. There are a lot of insurance agents that'll sometimes try to write a bond and they don't know that. That's where we really try to focus in on that education piece with our clients.
Interesting. And then as far as the documentation is concerned, you use the phrase document properly. Where do you find contractors often fall short in terms of proper documentation that they need to make sure they're focusing in on consistently?
Yeah. So most of our contractors are the same way, where they're just simply, they're doers. They're not
Right.
documenters. So
Yep.
we want to document work in progress, accounts receivable, accounts payable. Sounds easy. And quite frankly, sometimes it is. They just need to be able to hire the right person to do that. And so sometimes we'll just suggest, hey, getting the right accountant to help you out.
Yep.
Do the books in a certain way that's good for surety, which is not always the best for, taxes or things like that.
That's interesting. Yeah. So it's a combination, though, is having the right accounting professional, but then also getting your PMs dialed in with the right processes so that they're keeping track of those numbers, so that when a situation does occur, there isn't a bunch of drama about getting the numbers in place and the documentation into the right hands.
Yeah, and it's great business as well, because sometimes when they start documenting like that, they're like, hey, we're having leakage here that we never thought of, or wow, this one business line is just really doing great. Maybe we should focus in on that.
Yeah, that's excellent. How should an owner think differently about bonding strategy when moving from private projects into public or government work?
Yeah, so I tell people when they're moving from a private to a public job, one, go out and get those bonds so you know what to bid. Because the difference with bonded work is that you have fewer competitors and margins tend to be higher.
Yeah.
The problem is all the documentation that goes along with it, so that's painful. Once you get past that, though, the way to think about it is, how can I strategically add projects that make sense to my business that will add significant margin?
Yeah.
Some people just want to grow revenue. I say bonded jobs aren't just for revenue. They're really for margin. How do you add great margin to your business? We find that almost all of our contractors that come to us that get into bonded work don't ever leave just because they like the margin.
Yeah, that's interesting. So something popped into my head there. Sometimes what we can do is we can do a particular project and it goes so well, but we don't necessarily appreciate how well it actually went. And we just kind of keep on walking and go find some other work when, hold on a second, let's see what worked and let's keep doing more of that.
Exactly. Right. It's about margin sustainability and then velocity. That's the other part that gets lost sometimes.
Yeah, that's beautiful. If you could give one piece of advice to a construction company owner who wants to increase bonding capacity and reduce risk over the next, year, maybe 2 years, what would it be?
My one piece of advice would be the ability to properly track their jobs from a financial perspective. That shows you where you're making your money, where you're reducing your risk, where you have all of your great margin. And basically what you just said, what works, what doesn't work, and do a lot more of what works.
That's beautiful. Yeah, that's excellent. Gary, tell us a little bit more about your company and how people can get in touch with you.
Oh, yeah. So it's SwiftBonds at access-surety.com. So, or SwiftBonds.com, access-surety.com. My name's Gary Eastman. I'm out there on our websites, also on LinkedIn and YouTube. More than happy to answer questions for people that are just thinking about things. We don't necessarily have to, be engaged. We're always happy to help.
Excellent. We'll have links in the show notes to your website, Gary. And man, I appreciate you coming on, give us some insights, and I wish you all the best.
Hey, thank you so much for having me today.
Hey, this is Eric. Thank you for listening to today's episode. I think it's a good companion with my episodes from Kathy Barrington on things like the WIP report and over and under billings and all that kind of good stuff. So make sure you check out those episodes of Construction Genius. Just search up Kathy, Kathe, and then Barrington, and you'll find them and you'll really enjoy them. Please share this show with anyone else who would listen and benefit. They've got to be able to listen if they are going to benefit, right? Right on. So, and give the show a rating or a review wherever you get your podcasts. Thanks very much. Thank you for listening to this episode of Construction Genius. Hope you found that 1% of inspiration to help you in the next few days. If you like the show, please give us a 5-star review on iTunes, share it with other construction leaders who you think would benefit, and always remember that the show is brought to you by Kick-Ass Meetings. I've been working with construction leaders since 2004, teaching them how to run extremely effective problem-solving meetings that gets their people collaborating, taps into their creativity, and to get yourself a free copy of the Kick-Ass Meeting Report, go to www.ericanderton.com/kickassmeetings. Grab yourself that free report, read it, use it in your business. You'll find it extremely useful. And thanks again for listening.